Yeah, we back at it again. Another Premium Pete show. Listen, internet, thank you to everyone who listened to last week's episode with the one and only Ikram, okay, the founder of Venmo. I mean, this was just like a real entrepreneurial tech episode, talking about growing up in a college dorm, thinking of websites to buy, apps to develop, and then finally being able to build something that was almost going to disappear and then sell it to PayPal, who eventually became millionaires from it and then opened new apps. Internets, listen, I always tell you, the Premium Pete show is not just one way of podcasting. It's athletes, it's entrepreneurs, it's artists, it's people from all walks of life. And I appreciate, listen, you know, whenever I say check the fuck in, and that's wherever you're listening from, and internet's been doing that worldwide, it's honestly humbling. You know, Australia, steady on the check-in, Detroit, Tokyo, Indonesia. I mean, I keep on saying all these different places, but it's really worldwide, and it's humbling. And what I really enjoy is that this ain't no gossip shit. This is the journey, the ups and downs of people's lives. And people really appreciate that shit. And I appreciate everyone who appreciates that. You know, I do want to say this. Always make sure that if you know an episode that you fuck with, let somebody know about that shit. And the reason why I say that for is because you don't hold in greatness. If something inspired you, like I get a lot of DMs. And people are like, yo, this episode inspired me, made me look at life different. Then take that episode and send it to your friend or send it to your cousin or your brother. And it's not because it's the Premium Pete show. It's because if it inspired you, maybe it'll inspire somebody else. You know, I always bring up stuff when I talk about certain tweets that I tweeted because they mean something to me. And the most recent tweet that I want to share with y'all that I tweeted was, here's some things you can't do. So stop stressing out about any of them. You can't co-sign everything or everyone. You can't be friends with everyone, and you can't make everyone happy no matter how hard you try. So let me explain that to you, okay? Let me stop stressing about shit that you can't control, because you cannot co-sign everything no matter how much you try. In this day and age, I feel like some people are eager or more easier to co-sign shit. Take your time to do the homework. Take your time to make sure shit is real, and that could be anything in your life. Doesn't mean, you know, you don't have to co-sign everything. And to be honest, you can't co-sign everything. It just can't be like that. Same way you can't be friends with everyone. Same way you can't make everyone happy no matter how hard you try. So what I'm trying to say is at the end of the day, be nothing but yourself. Because people ain't going to ever get what you like. If you try to make everyone happy, you'll lose your life. So make yourself happy. Find a balance. You know, success to me could be different from what success is to you. Success to me is seeing my kids smile. But to somebody else, success may be getting an apartment on Park Avenue. Or success may be getting a Bentley for somebody else. It doesn't matter. But whatever success is to each person, find a balance of it. You know, I do want to say this too. In this game, in this day and age, in anything you succeed in, sometimes people don't celebrate those moments, including myself. And I'm learning to check myself. I'm learning to be a better person every day. I'm not perfect. I'm learning with y'all, internets. I'm learning how to check myself and be better. You know, when we celebrate something, we need to, take that time, because who knows if we have tomorrow. You know, speaking about that, you know, it's like, you know, so many of our lost friends, so many people that we love that, you know, have you know, transferred over, and God has taken over, and they're resting in peace. People like my brother Combat Jack, who I never forget, who I miss every day, who I think of so much. And it's funny I say that because this week's episode is with somebody who was the catalyst of me really getting on the mic for the Combat Jack show back in 2010. The one and only Toure. Not Toure the rapper, my brother from Coney Island. Toure, the journalist. Don't call him White Toure. Internet. Don't be disrespectful, okay? This is my friend now. And we have a great conversation about his legendary books he made with Prince. He's making a book with Rakim. The moments, the legendary interview with R. Kelly. you know, just growing up, his father, his sister, you know, what inspires him. And more importantly, just who he is as a person. Internets, listen, I already told you, okay? Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Like, Internets, honestly, like, I'm dead serious. I fucking appreciate all the love. But if you really appreciate me, go leave a comment on iTunes. Go subscribe. Go tell a friend to tell a friend. I can't express how much that means. And all my fellow parents out there, let's continue to be, you know, that driving force in our kids' life. Whether you're a father or a mother, mothers are so appreciated. We got Mother's Day coming up. I can't wait. I want to do something real special for the mothers because mothers are so important. You know, I was at the park the other day with my son, Baby Premium, and I seen a mother crying, and she was with her mother. They looked the same, I could tell. And I realized, you know, sometimes, like, you know, fathers, us men, aren't really the best. You know, okay, I may be a good father to my kids, but a lot of people aren't. And that name, father or dad, is bruised and battered. So we need to continue. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I'm a good dad, I don't care about anybody else. We need to continue to uplift and change that name around, that we're going to be in our kids' life. Because I always say presence over presence, and y'all know. And this shit should never get tiring, whether you have a kid or you don't. Being in your kid's life, being there for them, will change the trajectory of their life. Will change the moments. You've seen that big word I used, right? That's like a $2 word I used. But it will. Being there for them will be the best gift you ever give them. They won't remember all the times that you bought them fucking dolls, okay? They won't remember exact numbers on those, but may they remember those moments that you built a dollhouse for them, or that you've been there. And not everybody, listen, you may not have kids, but I'm just saying, look, at the end of the day, Internets, let's be great. Let's be in our kids' life. And if we're having hard times with the mother, shit, hit me up, man. Let's talk. I want to be there for you because I've been through that. I've been through that struggle. I've been locked up. I've been down and out. I've been lost. And I found myself. And then I've been lost again. Internet, this shit, don't ever look at social media and think everybody is official tissue and everything is okay and nobody needs help. Everybody's still trying to figure it out while they're figuring it out. Love to everyone listening. Listen, this week, the one and only Toure, Toure, MSNBC, author, somebody who bowled with fucking Prince, played basketball with Prince, sat down with R. Kelly and questioned him to death about his craziness. I mean, so much shit. He's got his own podcast now. And to be honest with you, all my Day One Combat Jack Show fans know I went back and forth with Toure, the one who was the catalyst of me getting on the mic on the Combat Jack Show. Internets, before I get this, I just want to say thank you again. Love and blessings. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Thank you for all the love worldwide for the Premium Pete Show. We will not stop. We will raise the bar in remembrance of my brother, Combat Jack, a.k.a. Reggie Osei. Internets, this week I present to you the one and only. Do not call him White Toure, but Toure, Toure, the legendary. Honestly, I mean that. The legendary Toure on this week's episode of the Premium Pete Show. Let's get to it. Cheer.
Come on, everybody get set, let's go. It's the next episode. It's the Premium Pete Show. News, interviews, all of the info. Listen up, it's the Premium Pete Show. If you want the scoop in the low, down low, listen to the show, cause Milk said so. Fuck what you heard, better act like you know. It's the Premium Pete Show.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the Premium Pete Show. Sitting here with a longtime friend.
Yes.
Man, a long-time affiliate, a long-time debater with me, man. We made history. And what I mean by that is because in 2010, I think that was maybe, when you came up to the Combat Jack Show.
Who is it? Who is he talking about?
Talk about the one and only Toure.
Oh, okay.
Toure.
Thank you.
Okay, Toure. Now we could say for those who may not know Toure. Okay, it's my friend Toure. Internet, stop playing. It's my friend Toure. Writer, TV personality. What else could we call?
Podcaster.
We have to come up with a couple other things. No?
Author.
Come on.
Father.
Mm-hmm.
Husband.
Yeah. And entrepreneur.
I'm working on that. I'm working on earning that title. Not yet. I have become increasingly entrepreneurially minded recently, especially, I hate to say it, but because I've been doing a big just personal study of Combat Jack, Breakfast Club, all these sort of, epic interviews, and the Dame Dash philosophy as expressed on the Combat Jack show.
Classic.
And on the Breakfast Club.
Classic episodes.
It's very infectious. Be your own boss.
Why do people look at him like... Okay, is it the loud person that people don't listen to the message?
Oh, I mean, they can miss it if they choose. I heard the message. I mean, Dame's an asshole, like on purpose. That's a personality business choice. But the message of be relentlessly entrepreneurial and use your money to create more money and just the notion of the mentality. I'm looking at myself like, am I chasing a job when I could be creating an opportunity for myself? It gets infected.
It's something to think about. It's something to think about. What makes me even think about it more is that when you start speaking with people, and unfortunately, not everybody could work for themselves, and there's struggles in entrepreneurship, which make entrepreneurship. But at the same time, people, worry so much about a job, and I know that quote. I'm sure you've seen it go around that will replace you if you die the next day.
Sure.
They're like, look for a replacement for Toure. When you're through your sickness, are like kind of like, damn, I may not be able to make it in, but I got to go into work today. So you're willing to almost die for them, so to speak. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. It's a business of what they're doing.
Okay.
But I like Dame's philosophy, and I think people make fun of this shit. That like, I'll create my own popcorn. I'll create, and then people will be like, man, I ain't fucking with that popcorn. Like, because people look for more of a brand name instead of a story behind it from someone who's an independent owner, small business owner. Why is that, man? And people want it for free, too. Not even buy it.
The Dame philosophy of being the boss, of being entrepreneurial, is absolutely growing in terms of where you saw it with Gen Xers versus where you see it with millennials. They have a lot more agency and a lot more entrepreneurial spirit and creating and solving their own problems, which you see from Facebook, to Black Lives Matter. We are going to solve our own problems and create our own institutions, Fuck your institutions.
Now you've been on CNBC, MSNBC, right? Was it MSNBC?
Yeah.
CNN?
Yeah.
Well, you've been on a bunch of
BET, MTV.
BET throughout the years.
Yeah.
Whenever you bring up Black Lives Matter, or do people ever debate you there, like even behind the scenes, or?
Oh, sure. Behind the scenes, sure. I mean...
It's like you have to actually stick up for what...
Oh, sure. I mean, there's an intellectual diversity at MSNBC to a certain extent. I mean, most people are progressive, but some people would definitely say things like, like, who's going to stand a cop? I heard that. I had to defend that position. I thought that was an absurd idea. But, you encounter that everywhere.
You tweeted something the other day, too, about, Donald Trump mentioned sleepy eyes. What's that guy's name?
Chuck Todd.
Chuck Todd. Shouts to Chuck Todd. That's sleepy eye, he calls him, right? Think about it. He says, I tell my son never to say nothing, or I tell him never to say... And you said, so you're telling your son to lie?
Yeah, Chuck Todd tweeted that he doesn't allow his children to say negative things about Trump. And, I wouldn't want my children to go around in public and diss Trump to where, especially if I'm, one of the central people at NBC and MSNBC. I mean, he is one of the anchors. He is one of the core personalities, the political director. So it would be poor form for his children to be going around saying negative things about Trump, which everyone would assume, okay, when Chuck goes home, he disses Trump. That's bad. That's a bad look. So I understand that if he's saying, I don't want my kids out in public dissing Trump. But if he's saying, which I kind of thought he was, I don't want my kids saying anything negative about Trump at home, which should be a safe space where all sorts of ideas are in play and we can discuss those ideas. So you're making them be dishonest? Because you can't honestly look at this administration and not have many criticisms.
Sure.
I think even a child would have to see this is not being run in a professional, stable, coherent, intelligent way.
It's dysfunctional.
Yeah, it's clearly dysfunctional. So you don't let your kids at home say the Trump White House looks like a fucking dumpster fire? Because it freaking does. And unless you say that, you're lying.
Do you think you ever get a chance to sit down with Trump?
I don't know. I don't think so. I met him. I was tweeting back and forth at him several times in 2013 when I was doing the cycle. And he was nobody. And he was just a New York loudmouth. And I started trolling him because I thought it'd be funny. So every once in a while, every couple of months, I'd tweet at him, like, oh, you went bankrupt 4 times. Sucker, you went bankrupt 4 times. And the 4th time I did that, I was really trolling, right? I'm like pegging him like 3-4 times. The 4th time he responded, and I was like, oh, shit. And he was all like, you're racist. We know why no one watches your show.
The numbers are down.
Yeah. We all know why why you're on MSNBC. And I'm like, well, why? I mean, like no actual reason. So at the correspondence dinner in 2012. No, it wouldn't have been 2012. It would have been 2014, I believe it was. We were both the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is the most insane party outside of maybe the Met Gala. I mean, when I say everybody is there,
throw some names out there you've seen that night.
It was blinding to remember. As best as I can recall, I mean, this is within inches of each other. Olivia Munn, Bill Belichick, Steve McQueen, the director of 12 Years a Slave, Jeff Goldblum, Senator McCaskill, Senator Schumer, Governor Hickenlooper, Brad Pitt. Actors, Lindsey Vonn. Here's maybe I don't remember seeing Tiger Woods, but I mean, like, all sorts of actors, Michael J. Fox. This is just. John Legend and Chrissy, and everybody's super dressed up, right? Janet Mock, and and half of them I don't know the cast of Game of Thrones,
sure.
But Joy Reid is freaking out over them, and I don't watch Peaky Blinders, but Martin Bashir is like, oh my God, so nice to meet you, and it's just insane. And there's Matthew McConaughey, and it's fucking ridiculous. Got me off my train of thought.
Well, you explained about
Donald Trump.
Interview Donald
Trump. So I go to the bathroom, partly because I want to go to the bathroom, partly because I want to maximize my potential to see people because I get starstruck all the time.
Really?
I'm coming down the stairs, and it's fairly empty, that area, and he's coming down the facing staircase at the same time. So now it would be awkward for us to not make some sort of acknowledgement of each other because we're like the only 2 human beings in this space. And he totally took control of the moment. Like, we got to like the flat part at the same time, and he totally took control of the moment and like put his arm around me and was like, Toure, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. And all right. And then he goes we walked into the thing together, and then there's 1,000 people and you split up. And I was like, he like had this like breath of like charisma, like this whoosh, and then like move. I mean, like, granted, I did not know the full extent of what an insane, incoherent racist he is at that point.
Clearly.
I would not now be all hugging up on freaking Mr. Build-A-Wall. But in that moment, so that's the most I can say about being close to him. I don't anticipate getting an interview with him because he doesn't do interviews with anybody outside of Fox News.
Yeah, he only picks what's good for him. Speaking of interviews, for people who may not know of you, I mean, you've done so many on TV, on now on podcasting, but so many. One of them is so legendary, the viral one with R. Kelly. Mm-hmm. You know what's crazy about that? And I would love for you to tell the story.
Yeah.
Did they not know you were going to ask that question? Because when you asked that question, your question was so perfectly timed, and then your response to his response. Take people through.
It's a yes and no. The answer to that is yes and no.
Yeah. How'd that happen? Who set that up?
BET. R. Kelly had just come off of, I believe it was sexual assault trial because it was alleged that that what we saw of him urinating on a woman who looked very, very young turned out to be a woman who was very, very young. BET set up an interview where I would talk to him in a Chicago hotel, and we would talk about all these sorts of things. And we had to submit our questions. I didn't tell them everything I wanted to ask. And honestly, so much is in the details. And you'll see in this story that one word can make the difference between a good question and a less effective question, or even a bad question. And in the beginning of the interview, he was kind of being squirrely. And when I was asking him about underage girls, he was kind of driving toward 14 and 13-year-olds. And I'm like, and kind of saying, like, I don't do that. So it's kind of like, I see you trying to evade by going around the group of women I'm clearly talking about. So he had a crisis manager there, right? This some fucking white guy in an expensive suit, whatever, older guy. And I say to him, and this was like, the first of a trio of questions that were to really get at, did you do this thing that the prosecutors alleged you did? And I assumed he would say no, but perhaps within the no, we would be able to see the real answer. So I say to him, do you like underage girls? And his crisis manager jumped up and was like, no, you can't ask that. No, stop. And R. Kelly says, no, I want to answer this. And the guy says, okay, great. Client is happy. Here we go. But this time, because it was kind of rolling around in my head like, underage is not specific enough. And I said, and you can see it on the thing that I start to say, but then I say, do you like teenage girls? Which broadened the group, right? Because underage, he can define as he wants, but teenage...
Sure, after you get past it.
You cannot be more specific than teenage.
Yeah.
And so then that's when he said, what do you mean? Teenage. Like, what? And that's when I was like, what the fuck are you talking? And I'm like, this is question one. This is the softball.
How did you keep your composure?
Well, that was part of the thing, right? This was the softball that was going to get to something a little harder, that was going to get to something that would be like hard S, and not like super hard to where his people were like, yeah, you can't ask that. But so I saw a cat burglar sort of element here, or mission here, right? I couldn't let him see that he was hanging himself, because he's never going to go, yeah, I like 15-year-old girls, but can we get you to say that without saying that? And when I said, do you like teenage girls? And he said, what do you mean by teenage? I was kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? And I definitely said to myself, don't let him see that he just said some crazy shit. I failed in that mission because people came up to me on every block. Yo, your face in the R. Kelly interview. Yo, it was about 2 years of like every single day somebody said, yo, your face in the R. Kelly interview. And, you know, that week I thought that was going to get cut out of the interview. So when I finished the interview, which did not end pleasantly, because later on I said, can you promise your fans that this will never happen again? And he said, yes, this interview will never happen again. And like, really. And so
he left.
No, he didn't like leave, but like we finished and we both, like usually you do like an hour-long interview, you shake hands, maybe you hug if you really like went there. But like it was definitely like I go my way, you go your way, because he was not happy with the whole interview. And I thought that the core moment was going to get cut out. So I went in the bathroom and I fucking freaked out because I'm like, you let him get off. You let him get away. You're part of the whole fucking apparatus that lets him get away because the core moment will not be in the fucking show.
How did it wind up staying in there?
You know, I was not in the editing room. I was not at that level at BET. I was one of the top level hosts, but I wasn't so big that I could be in the editing room talking about it. So I just laid back. I didn't say anything. And the episode came out and it was in there. And I remember being at home like, holy shit, they aired it. Oh my God, I can't believe they aired that. And
did he flip out or his team?
He flipped out. They called the next day and they said, if you air it again, we'll sue you.
Well, are they able to do that?
Well, yeah, I was friends with the president, Reggie Hudlin. I was like, dude, what are they going to sue us over? On what grounds? We aired an interview that he willingly sat for. What is the... No, excuse me. Re-air, because we already aired it. Like, why? What?
Plus, it's the internet. They already ripped that and it's taken all over the place.
Well, it's crazy because, you know, the internet never forgets, but that interview is not on the internet.
Really?
That piece that we talked about is on the internet in different ways, but the rest of it is lost. And I don't know where it is in my house. Illuminati.
You know, let me tell you, you were able to sit and be around a lot. You grew up in Brooklyn, New York?
No, I grew up in Boston.
That's right, you grew up in Boston.
Yeah.
And you stayed into Boston for how long? Until high school?
Through high school, I left Boston for Atlanta, went to Emory for college. I was there through my junior year, but I was disenchanted with liberal education, and I was sort of searching and asking people, how does a liberal arts education lead to a career? And nobody could explain that to me. And I was really kind of like, I did 3 years here. Why do I have to do 4? Like, what am I going to learn in the next year that's going to make the difference?
People don't like when you ask questions sometimes.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, like, I'm asking an existential question at Emory University. Why are we doing this exercise? And none of the professors, none of the administrators, none of the graduate students who I was friends with were able to say, this is why we do this, and this is why you should finish. And I was not into doing things that I didn't understand why I was doing them. So my man Alvin Glimpf was a New Yorker who was at Emory. He was driving back home. I drove with him to New York. My grandmother lived in New Rochelle, and I would stay in her place and take the train into the city. And the first night I was in the city, took the train and somehow landed at what was then called the New Music Cafe, which is at the corner of Canal and West Broadway, right? It's been several things, but it's still an event space. That night, I met Greg Tate, Dream Hampton, and Michelle Ndegeocello at the New Music Cafe, and I was launched into my New York journey.
Now, you grew up with mom and dad?
Yeah.
What did mom do?
My mom, I mean, she was a homemaker for the most part. You know. She's done a bunch of different things since we were living in the house, but she was there for us.
How good and bad is that?
Me and my sister.
How good? So it's only you and your sister?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She's 16 months now I'm forgetting. She's 14. My kids are 16 months apart. We are 14 months apart, my sister and I.
How's your relationship with her?
Great. She's a dream sister. What's
that mean?
She's a doctor. She's a chief medical officer of the hospital in Hoboken, New Jersey. She's always there for me. She's always happy to try to solve a problem. Kids love her. She just got married last year. You know, I really like her husband a lot. You know, like I would hang out with him and he's in IT. So any medical question you would have, we call her. Any computer question you have, we call him. That solves about 50% of the questions that I have that I can't answer out of my own mind. And, she's just rock solid and, she's not ever calling me with her problems. I mean, she has some problems, but she's very stoic because as a doctor, she's become, I don't want to say numb, but she doesn't really let much affect her. And so, she's just been fantastic.
Well, family is the backbone of everything. Now, what did Pops do growing up?
He was an accountant throughout my life. Before I was born, he was an advisor to Kevin White.
Oh, really?
Who's one of the legendary, iconic mayors in Boston history. He was mayor from 1968 to 84. Dad worked on his campaign and then became an advisor to him for a while. And he left. He was his liaison to the black community, Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, and he then became an accountant serving those communities. He had an office in Mattapan Square. Took us to, for those who know Boston, took us to Sportsman's Tennis Club in the Hood in Dorchester, and just spent a bunch of time there. We lived in Randolph, for those who know Boston.
Yeah. Shouts, we actually have a lot of Boston listeners. We had a bunch of different people on from Boston. Static Selector, DJ producer. We had G Spin. You remember G Spin? He was a program director at Power 105.
I was just talking to Charlemagne for my show, and he was talking about G Spin.
Yeah, now he's at UTA, I believe.
But yeah, I mean, my dad just passed like 2 weeks ago.
Sorry to hear about that.
And he was extremely cool.
Did you have a good relationship with him growing up?
I did. I mean, he was tough on me, like dads are supposed to be, and they were doing corporal punishment at that time, and I got spanked plenty. But I mean,
belt?
No, he was into the hand. He was not into the belt. He would
to the face too.
No, he never hit me in the face. My parents did not believe in that. He hit me on the butt when I was little.
You ever got soap in your mouth?
Yes, I cursed in front of one of my aunts once, and I got literal soap in the mouth.
What would happen today if that ever happened?
I don't know. That is just that. It's not that it would happen. It's different than what the parenting culture is telling each other. That the parents and the teachers, the administrators are spreading messages, especially when you have young kids that we shouldn't do corporal punishment and stuff like that. But
how old was Dad?
He was 86. And one thing I was getting to was that he was very cool in the way that he carried himself. He was from the street. He carried a gun when he was 17 in Brooklyn, like he was in a gang. His mother pulled him out of Brooklyn and took him to Boston to try to save his life because she didn't want him to be a gangster. And there's two stories I want to tell. When we were growing up, he was very cool. He always drove a Mercedes. He wore a Kango and members-only jackets and leather driving gloves, and his clothes were always tasteful and tailored and fitted and never loud and never baggy. And his office was very like cool with Ernie Barnes paintings on the walls and leather chairs and backgammon and ivory and, browns and beiges and those colors. And I mean, like you could have had like a nightclub event there, like put in a DJ and it would have looked funky. So, I mean, he was the only relationship I had to the word accountant. So growing up, accountant is shorthand for nerdy and dorky, and I never understood what that meant because the only accountant I ever knew was cool as hell.
Sure.
But, he was great, and...
what were some of your last days with him like?
Well, he had dementia, and so the last 2 years, he was really trending downward. I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, it's hard to remember having like a really good substantive conversation with him. But the last 2 years he was in care and just, just going down in terms of how much he could talk and how lucid he could be. And look, my experience is not unique. It's just mine and it's recent. And, I think I want to talk about it. I mean, it doesn't leave your mind.
Sure.
Like you keep thinking about it all the time. And I've never sort of broken down and cried, but the persistence of the thought of like this thing has happened or thinking back to the funeral, which was really nice. Like I never thought that I would get such a good feeling from a funeral to see him like honored and like, oh my God, the nice things that like his employees had said. I mean, he was a guy who, he wasn't obnoxious like George Jefferson, but that black, self-assertive, I'm the boss way. Like he had that, and he loved being the boss. And to see like his employees be like, he was a great boss, he was a great guy, he helped me be a better man. He saw more in me than I saw in myself and helped me get there. It's like, wow, like, I mean, it's hard to work with somebody for 10 or 20 years and have them walk away being like, you were cool. But I mean, like, it's, it was nice.
It's something we were speaking about off air. It's about, we don't ever really learn how to mourn anybody. It's not like anybody ever prepares, like, kind of like, okay, I'm going to take a class on learning how to...
Like we've had a class. I feel like we've had a class recently, right?
Well, yeah.
I saw you at Jack's.
Yeah.
I was at Gary Harris's funeral because I was close to him, music business veteran who passed away. And we think in January. It was a 6-day period over which he may have passed away. We don't know. And then my dad... and a bunch of us were at Dominic Trenier's funeral, a couple months ago. And, he was D'Angelo's manager a long time. I mean, like, it's been a lot lately. I mean, I feel like there was a season in my life when, you're constantly going to parties where everybody's single. And then there was a season in my life in like maybe my 30s when I was going to like 4 or 5 weddings a year. Wedding season, And then there's a season in my life when a bunch of my guy friends were coming out to me that they had girlfriends on the side. And now it's like the season in my life where I'm going to like way more funerals than I would like to. But I've been to 4 in the last 4, 5, 6 months. And, the people who came to my father's funeral who didn't have to, it was so touching to me and it meant so much to me that they did that. It showed me how important it is for us to show up in those moments. So I'm like, I'm a rider. I'm a go.
What is a memorable moment that you remember with your father?
I mean, he was a competitor. He was a fighter, I mean, he if he was in a fight, a literal fight, a backgammon fight, a tennis fight, like he was just never give up, always clawing, always just, believing in himself. I mean, it never would have occurred to me that self-doubt ever entered his mind. He believed in himself completely every day. I could accomplish anything. And not because of listening to some Tony Robbins shit, but like he just was that naturally. I believe in myself, and I definitely imbibed that from him and, believe, I can accomplish anything. And like, my back is to the wall and I know what I'm going to do. And like, I'll be in a car half hanging off the cliff, and I'll be like, I'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out.
It's important to have that, hey, listen, the presence of a father, presence of a parent in your life is super impactful.
No, he didn't have a father.
Really?
Right? He didn't grow up with a father. And, my mom always marveled at like how he grew up without a father and was able to be a great father. But it definitely didn't escape me that if he had lived his life differently, I would have grown up in the projects, and I would be, and I would be a different person. I mean, he came from the projects. So if he was not able to figure out a way out of that, then I would have been in the projects. And I would have been a vastly different person, obviously. And, I thank God and I thank him for giving me the opportunity, the platform, such that I could even be here doing the things that I do.
Of course. And you know what? We want to take a moment and send prayers and blessings up to your father.
Thank
that
you.
he rest in peace.
Thank you.
It obviously is important for us to pay tribute, to love our parents while they're here. You know what the problem is? Some people forget that as we're getting older, so are they.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing to see how impactful he's been on you. Let's take a quick break.
Sure.
So I may have to get you a Kleenex. And there's nothing wrong with that. Real men cry.
I'm not crying. I'm not
Real men cry.
I'm not crying.
Let's take a quick break. Sitting here with the one and only Toure.
Okay.
My old friend.
Yeah, man.
We'll be right back.
Hey, what's up? This is Ikram. I'm the co-founder of Venmo, the founder of Ents, and part of the group Ikram and the Immigrant Groove. And you're listening to the Premium Pete Show. Enjoy.
Internets, and we're back sitting here with my guy, Toure.
Yeah, man.
Listen, we spoke about your father. We spoke about you losing one of your close friends. We spoke about growing up in Boston. Spoke about R. Kelly. And like before the break, I said, listen, your parents got to be proud of you. You've done a lot of great things.
I'll tell you one thing I wanted to tell you before that I learned from my parents, how to get through 60 years amnesia.
Hey.
No, I'm not kidding.
Pick and choose your battles?
No, but I'm not kidding. Like, because it's very easy to get mad at your significant other and then cling to it. And then a month or 2 months or 6 months later, you're like, I'm mad about that thing.
And you're like, what?
Right?
Bringing that up?
Right. And like my parents, I saw, like, they would get mad at each other for something and then they would immediately forget it. And it's gone. And it's that same sort of amnesia that athletes had. Like, you miss the last 6 shots, and you pull up the next one like you're the fucking man. Like, I don't think about I missed before. And that is a big key, if you can do it, to having good relationships.
Okay, listen, marriage advice from Toure. One thing that I'm really proud of you that you were able to do is your love for Prince. You were able to write a book about him.
Yeah.
And... there's so many different stories, but let the internets know about the time you went to his house.
Yeah.
Played basketball with him.
Yeah.
Didn't you throw the ball in his face?
No.
How dare you? How dare you, Toure?
I wrote a cover story for Icon magazine when Prince was in the symbol phase. So there was no sonic way to say the name. And
why was that? That was because of lawsuits, right? Like he was having problems, so he wanted to change it.
I mean, you could say it was partly because of his attempt to get off the label and to screw with the label and to reclaim the music that comes from him. So this music now belongs to this symbol and not Prince, so you don't own it anymore. Or an artistic break from the past,
sure.
Somewhere in there.
Did that work out for him?
Well, I mean, I look at Prince's entire career as one thing, and if we don't like one piece of it, it's not for us to say I don't like that anymore. Like,
no, meaning did he get the publishing from the label? Did he ever win that case? He didn't change nothing, I think, right?
You're asking me to remember some Dan Charnas type.
Shouts to Dan Charnas.
I don't recall. I don't recall the answer to that question right this second. It's freaking 11 o'clock at night. Freaking asking me to do fucking
you fuck
business trivia. I don't remember.
Okay, don't worry about it. You're not being interrogated, my friend.
No, but so I went to Paisley Park with 7 or 8 other journalists. I was the only one that had a cover story. Prince was fairly late in his career at this point, so everyone else had an inside story or maybe even a shorter story, a shorter feature. So I needed more than they needed in terms of access, in terms of content.
Sure.
So, after a while, I was one of the last to be escorted up to the conference room where Prince and Larry Graham and one other person, forgive me, I don't remember who, were there. And you were not allowed to take notes during the conversation of any sort.
And who said that? Was there
Prince?
Assistant? Okay, Prince.
I mean, I don't remember him actually saying that, but you were told, you knew.
Yeah.
You can't record. You can take notes. You can take written notes. You can't record. Was the thing. So as he's talking, I'm writing notes as fast as I can, but he talked fairly fast, and he talked in this flowery, almost Shakespearean kind of way. So at times there are words written down that I know I recorded faithfully, and later I'd be like, I have no idea what this means. Because the way he talks and just like, I needed the context. I didn't write down the context. And so some of my notes were worthless and some of them were fruitful. But it didn't answer the question enough of what I needed to have a cover story done. So I said, can I email him some questions? And I wish I had saved the exchange, but this is like 10 computers ago. And I emailed him 10 questions, and he emailed back, and he used the letter I instead of, and he used the U instead of all those little Princey things. And he didn't answer all the questions. So the ones he answered were meaningful.
Sure.
And the 10th question was, will you play basketball with me sometime? Because I knew that he had loved playing in high school. And to that question, he wrote back, anytime, brother. And I'm like, well, I mean, you said anytime. So when the photographer had his photo shoot, I went with the photographer for the story with a basketball because I didn't want any excuses about, we don't have a ball.
Yeah.
And I'm holding the ball and I'm like, what's up? Like you said, anytime. And I'm good at basketball. I am not great, but I am good. I have played throughout my life. I did a lot of playground basketball in Manhattan the first few years I was in New York City. I did obviously a lot growing up. So I mean, like I love basketball. And so eventually, I keep ribbing him like, come on. And he finally says to an aide, like, okay, bring me the box of sneakers. And I'm like, holy shit, this is going to happen.
He's going to pull out the McFlies.
And I was totally just like, just shooting at the moon, like, come on. And then finally the moon was like, okay, I'll play with you. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't think this was really going to happen. I was just going to nag until who knows what happens. And so he disappears. He fucking disappeared. Like we were all sitting there basically staring at him, and then somehow he like disappeared. And then a few minutes later, somebody escorts us around the corner, and there's a stage where he and the band were rehearsing. Mm-hmm. And like we were just doing the photo shoot like 5-10 minutes ago, and now they're like rocking out a song. So we come in and they're doing a song, and it's fucking great. And then he puts down his shit, and he's wearing a black scoop neck top, right? And black bell bottoms. And he takes off the black boots, and there's the box of sneakers, and they've all clearly been worn. And he pulls out these white Air Force Ones with a red swoosh, and he puts them on. And we're balling. And we're playing.
Prince got handle?
And there's there's a hoop. I think it was like 9 feet tall, not 10 feet tall, but like,
Beautiful house?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get escorted through the whole house, but yeah, it's Paisley Park. But so now we're playing one-on-one. And if you're just looking at him and not looking at the basket, he looks like a player. He looks completely comfortable through the legs, around the back, doing his thing. He's got this, he's got the posture, he's got the moves. And now look, you got to shoot all the time to be a good shot.
Sure.
It's not like riding a bike, So, I mean, both of us were clanking a bunch, right? We're taking jumpers and fucking missing. But his form on the J looked good. He's not Lonzo Ball. He looks fucking good.
Sure.
That was a shot.
Yeah, okay. I heard it.
He didn't say nothing.
No, I
Eventually, after like 15 or 20 minutes, it's still like 3-3 or 4-4 or something. We're not really getting anywhere. So we pull in.
Anybody reffing this, or you just
no need for a ref. No, nobody's calling a foul.
Photographer taking pictures of this?
No, he said no pictures. I'm fucking kidding me.
Motherfucker.
So I keep like running off to the corner when I can to write little notes so I can remember little things that are said and things that he's doing. And he then brings the photographer and his bassist, Morris, into the game. And Morris is like 6'6" or something. Photographer, normal white boy. And so the two of them are on a team, and Prince and I are on a team. So now the 2-on-2 game starts to get more interesting, and these are good teams, and we're going back and forth. And Prince loves, for me to pass the ball to him and let him freaking go to the hoop, right, and lay it up or whatever. So I'm obliging him, and I grew up watching Magic Johnson,
sure,
and doing his thing, like we put some jazz on it.
Sure.
You know
how to dish it out.
I know how to dish it out. Like, look, if I go out with the guys, I'm like, let me bring it up. I'm gonna make an ill pass, so you are set up to shoot or lay up or whatever, and I can make dope passes all day long, right? Bounce, whatever, no look. So I'm looking at Prince, and I'm like, yo, he's mad open. He doesn't even realize how open he is. No look pass right to Prince right away. Right? Straight up pass, right? Chest pass. He doesn't know it's coming. So now I'm like, fuck, the ball's going to hit him in the fucking face and it's going to be an international incident. Fuck. So I yell out, Prince! But you're not supposed to say Prince.
Well, who said this? Who said you're not
I don't even remember who told me not to say, but we knew from before we entered that you don't say it, or who knows what could happen. And it's like you say Prince and you get thrown out immediately. Like, who knows? It was definitely like, who knows what the penalty would be, but it was like, it would be the worst, weirdest thing ever. So I yell out Prince, but then I realize mid-word I'm not supposed to, so it comes out more like, and the ball is going at him. And it flies past him. It misses his face, and it goes out of bounds. And I'm like, okay, I didn't freaking hit the guy in the face. And he, as a good brother, runs off and gets the ball and brings it back. And as he's bringing it back, he's laughing. And I'm like, yo, what's so funny? And he goes, you didn't know what to call me. And he loved that we were all like off balance about like, what do we call this guy? And we ended up winning the game, and it was dope, and there's no pictures of it.
You never seen him again after that, right?
I saw him again after that. I saw him with Manuela, his last wife, his third wife, second wife, last, at BB King's. There was some performance. I don't know what it was. My wife was and is really good friends with her. So the initial connection was Manuela saying, oh, there's my girl. And like, come on in, past the ropes. And, he's like, of course I know you. Of course I know who you are. Of course I know you. So it was like, the wives go there, the husbands go there. And we talked for about 5 minutes and it was normal. I don't really remember anything from it because it just felt, it was no weirdness. It was just, how you doing? How's it going? I mean, you don't, you're not going to be like, so what are you working on next?
Sure.
But I mean, like, for whatever it was, it just felt normal and natural and short check-in, and we were out, and that was the last time I saw him.
In your mind, did you ever think that we would lose him?
No.
Did you think that he had a problem or?
Not that I knew of.
Yeah.
The folks I talked to said that he did not do drugs, just, philosophically. So, I mean, the story was a bit of a surprise to me. My reporting did not match up with what ended up happening.
I remember when you came on Combat Jack show, maybe the second time.
That's right. I was on Combat Jack twice.
Yeah. 2-time returning champ. But, you were mentioning that some girls that you reported were saying that Prince wasn't good in bed. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
Well. I didn't say that. No, I talked to a couple of several women who he has been with. Yeah. And no. High marks. I mean, part of what they said was that he really pays attention to the environment and the atmosphere.
The reason why I asked you that for is because I've always looked at Prince as being like one of those guys that had a jungle in his room.
Yeah.
And he had like a swing with the penis on it. And
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like some Caligula type weird type stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, this guy's the man.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's so okay. I'm glad to straighten that up. Listen, you know, it's amazing to hear these stories of different people. I always look at it like, oh, you're a kid from Boston that was in Prince's house playing basketball with him. I know you may say, but
I don't look at it like that because I always expected big things from myself because my parents always expected big things from me, and not just from me, my sister as well. So you know, I never looked at it like, wow, I came from a small town. I was always like, we're going there. Like, we're going to New York City. We're going to do big things. You know, I can't even see anything else.
Now, you joined the podcast industry.
Yeah.
The Toure Show.
It's Toure Show.
Okay.
Not the.
Okay, Toure Show. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it has a little more poetic energy.
Now, what could people...
call back to Chappelle's show a little bit. Not that I'm doing Chappelle's show, but just grammatically, he cut out the the. I like cutting out the the.
Yeah, you need the roots to do the intro right there. Chappelle Show. Can you do a Toure Show?
I'm working on somebody
Questy?
I'm working on somebody ill to give me a little something for the top.
Now, you've seen the podcast game. Now you have strapped up the gloves.
Yeah.
Got in the batting cage.
Yeah.
And ready to hit. What could people expect listening to the Toure Show?
I'm doing hour-long one-on-ones with extraordinary people trying to get at what is it that you do so well, and what do you know that we should know, and how can we be more like you if we want to be a singer or an entertainer or an entrepreneur or whatever, or a writer, or, you know, I'm trying to talk to really brilliant, awesome people about how to be awesome, and just sort of, we've had so many great guests. We've had Zadie Smith. Hold on, let me
talk to me.
Just did Tony Braxton.
Oh, nice.
Today. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, nice.
Haven't aired that one yet. Who else have I had? You know, I did an amazing one with Spike Lee. An amazing one with Susanna Melvoin.
Oh, nice.
Who was Prince's fiance.
Really?
Before his first wife. They did not obviously get married. We've had Puffy. We've had Joy Reid. RZA.
Talk about it.
Kendrick Lamar.
Woo!
You know, Maxwell. Nikki Giovanni.
I love Maxwell, man.
Kehinde Wiley. Black Thought. Did an episode with Rakim, Patrice Cullors,
now, speaking of Rakim, you
just did one with Jussie Smollett from Empire. I'm just trying to find awesome people and talk to them about how they are fucking kicking ass and what we. So I mean, like, I think a lot of times, like, you talk to Tony Braxton, like, if I talked to her for Rolling Stone, I wouldn't be like, "How do you sing?" That's what I want to get at in this. How do you sing? Where do you sing from in your body? How did you get to be such a good singer? When you did this song, how did you do that? What did you do? I mean, she does a lot of this songs on one take. She said, I think, Unbreak My Heart was 90 minutes at David Foster's house. 90 minutes? 3 takes? You kidding me?
Now, let me turn the tables on you. What makes a good interviewer in your mind?
Oh, man.
Good writer, good interviewer.
I mean, good interviewer, so many things. And Jack embodied a lot of the things that he was a great interviewer. Really listening to the guests.
Sure.
Having a conversation with the guest. I don't like it when I see people wrote out 10 questions and then you ask those 10 questions in order. You're not listening enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's all in the follow-ups more than the question. Because the question, a lot of times, we're still wearing the mask. With the follow-ups, I can get even deeper. So a lot of times I don't think about it as, what exact wordsmithing do I need to do to get to the question about your dad? I might just write down on my pad, dad.
Yeah.
And I know that's a question cluster.
Sure.
So I'm going to ask you an initial question about your dad. And then I'm going to listen and follow up within that and follow up within that. I'm going to listen. I like short, direct questions. I really believe in that, like concrete questions. Sometimes, and I think earlier in my career and some other folks will ask more flowery questions that go on that maybe 3-4 sentences, and they may include some vague element. And I myself am going, I don't know what she wants him to talk about there. And like the short, direct question is really, really powerful. I just did an amazing episode that you'll hear in a couple of weeks with Charlemagne, and he's a great interviewer and a great talker. And one of the things he talked about was ask why, which Larry King had told him. Just ask why. And a lot of times just the why question is so sharp and powerful. I try to avoid feeling questions because I think that they're squishy and there's not a lot for us to learn with. How did you feel when this happened?
Sure.
But why did you do that? Or how did you do that? Can be really instructive for the listeners.
I agree. I think a lot of people, like for instance, when you interview somebody, just from my years of experience, people will ask a question and then the guest will answer, but you got to ask how, why, what, where, because people are like, oh, it was just a bad day for me. What happened? And I feel like some people have great stories. Sometimes they don't know how to tell them. Sometimes you got to guide them through. See, somebody like you give you the ball, you go right to the end zone. 72-yard touchdown.
Well, sure. I've been,
couple of jukes.
I've been doing this
couple of Madden
for a minute. But one of the things that interviewers can look at is silence. Silence is a really valuable question. Sometimes you ask a question, and the person might evade. They might not want to talk about it. What have you? And you're silent, and most people will fill in the space, or the interviewer doesn't take away the onus to discuss what I was in Jay-Z's office doing a cover story for Rolling Stone when he was the president of Def Jam, and his nephew had passed away about 6 months earlier. I think he was 18, 19, and Jay had given him a car, and he drove off the road and passed away in a car accident, in a car that Jay-Z gave him. So he felt very guilty about it. But as a journalist, it was incumbent on me to ask him about it. I can't force him to answer, but I have to ask him the question and let him say, I can't talk about it, I don't want to talk about it, whatever. It's not on me to say I'm not going to ask him that. So I remember asking him, but he's a human being. I've interviewed him many times, so there's definitely a professional relationship and a lot of respect. So I asked him, can we talk about your nephew passing? And he said, no. Okay, a little. And then I didn't say anything. And those no's I truncated a lot. That little bit I said may have lasted 30 to 60 seconds because he was really like trying to not talk about it. And I didn't say anything. And he talked himself into talking about it. And he conceded to talk about it a little bit. And then he talked about it a lot. And he was very open and heartfelt and let out some of his pain. And we moved on. I didn't ask him. I don't think I asked him a follow-up question because I thought it was too It's too much. But the silence.
Silence is key.
If I jumped in to save him from my question, he wouldn't have answered it. Don't be afraid as an interviewer to allow some silence and make the person answer your question.
I'll tell you one thing, man. There's so many different journeys that people take. And I know, do you ever celebrate any of these journeys? I know you're like, I expect to do well. My parents raised me this way. Have you celebrated any of your accomplishments?
Sure.
How? Do you buy yourself something? You're popping champagne? You're going for a steak dinner or a Chilan sea bass? How do you celebrate your victories?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've I don't know that I've done much outwardly, and I think akin to an athlete, I try to keep looking at the future because that's what really matters, and I always want my biggest victory to be in the future, because if the biggest victory is in the past, then like, what are you doing? Sure. So, I mean, like, I have some plans and dreams and goals that will, if properly executed, will outstrip even the things that I'm trying to build today.
Sure.
Much less the things that I built earlier, and the accomplishments I did earlier. But, I mean, I know that being a hip-hop journalist in the 90s was a thing.
Not so much anymore?
No, I don't. I mean, maybe y'all can tweet at me and tell me that I don't know, but I don't see a community of writers that are doing it, on a major level like we had in the 90s. That's no shots to any of the folks who are doing it. There are some here and there who are doing excellent work, but there was a community of us in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, for me the 90s, that were doing some really interesting work on the culture in Rolling Stone and Spin and Vibe and The Source. So it was and then later XXL. So it was a fairly small community, a small number of outlets that all mattered, the Village Voice as well. And, and I'm talking about an esteemed group of people, and, from the older generation, Greg Tate, Nelson George, Harry Allen, from my generation, Scott Polson Bryant, Dream Hampton, Bones Malone. Oh my God. So much his work was incredible. A couple other folks, Cheo Coker, a little younger than me, just a teeny bit. I can look at that esteemed group and feel very comfortable that I have to be one of the highest names in that group.
Sure.
And I don't want to diss anybody, but I feel very comfortable putting my stats and my resume on the table in that room. And I have great respect for all those folks that I named, Joe and Morgan as well. And some folks whose names are not coming to me at this second, but that's no disrespect. But to feel like this is a really august, small community of people who I really respect and a lot of others really respect. And I feel like, every once in a while I can just pull it out of the back of my mind, be like, I put it down with that group and people recognize, and, I feel good about the resume that I put together. And, look, I put a lot of effort and energy into doing profiles of hip hop people who I loved, who I cared about. And it mattered to me to do really thoughtful, insightful, complex profiles because I knew I was just one part of a media community that was trying to give more complex visions of black people at a time when that was not always happening. So, and I was doing that mostly through the profile. And to have somebody like Robert Christgau, who was one of the absolutely most esteemed music writers and editors in the entire freaking game, to say that I was the best at doing profiles in my generation, that is such a massive compliment.
Sure. Big cosign.
So, I might be at home late at night, with the J watching Popcorn Time, and I might take that memory out of the glass case in the back.
Sure, and just enjoy it.
Be like, yeah, I crushed that, and then put it back and get back to work.
Do you speak to Piers Morgan anymore?
No, I don't speak to Piers. We were not friends. I don't really.
You had a lot of debates with that guy.
No, I won. It was just one.
Even didn't on Twitter.
I called him out on Twitter. I mean, he had done a really shitty interview with George Zimmerman's brother, in which Piers was basically allowing George Zimmerman's brother to shape the early jury pool's perception. Very weak interview that showed that he had no understanding of this case or of American culture, and certainly not of race. And I called him out on Twitter. I wasn't trolling him. I just added him. I'm just keeping it real.
Sure.
And it wasn't 280 then. It was back in my day. Tweets had to be 140 characters.
Sure.
And so you might have had to buzz out a couple to make a whole point.
Sure.
And 140. But I wasn't trolling.
Caught him.
Yeah, but I wasn't trolling him, and he caught it and started talking his shit. And why don't you come on the show and talk about it? And I'm like, I got no problem with that. I'll come on the show and tell you to your face that you fucked that up. And
was there any restrictions from the programmers of that? Did they say they didn't want you to say anything, a certain type of words, a certain type of...
No, they didn't tell me anything. I mean, I was a guest on CNN. They're not going to tell me anything. I mean, I've been a guest on CNN many times. They don't tell you what to not say.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking. I don't know.
Yeah. And he made... I sat in the chair, and he made me wait like 10, 15 minutes, and I was getting really pissed off. Like, why are you making me wait, dog? Like, you knew the time frame for this. Like, what the fuck? And it might have been a legitimate holdup, or he might have been dicking around with me, or he might have been making me sit there longer that I would get madder and we might have better television.
Sure.
I don't know what it was. But, I felt like I gave it to him pretty good. People still bring it up. People come to me on the street sometimes. Yo, you said it on that British guy. What was his name? Like, word.
Fuck Piers Morgan.
I don't even remember.
What's your dream interview as we wrap this episode up?
I mean, my dream interview. I mean, I'd love to talk to, Barack Obama. Love to talk to Oprah.
Surprised you didn't get a chance to do that while he was in office.
I mean, still coming. The opportunity's still out there. I would love to talk to Oprah.
Oprah, Barack, that's good enough for me.
Love
What's
to
up
talk to Beyonce again.
Okay.
Love to get another shot with Jay-Z. I mean, there's a lot of dream interviews. I mean, like, I'm dying to talk to Jay Electronica. What's up with Jay Elec?
That's the homie.
If you are
but he don't want to talk.
Talk to me. Call
I was
me.
with him in Philly a month ago. He's a good dude, but he doesn't, here's the thing. People look at somebody and all they want is music. And as they should, they're fans. But, something that brother wants to do it his way, and whether that's right or wrong, I know it's crazy, but that's his opinion.
See, I'm fine with that. What I'm trying to create with the show I'm doing now is partly for the historical record of we understand how these great people accomplish their shit.
Create a library.
Yes.
And so far you already have done that.
Yeah. So, I don't really care that Jay Electronica hasn't released an album and we've been waiting for it for 12 years. I don't really care whatever he's doing in England. I care about, can we get an in-depth conversation about how this master MC approaches hip-hop?
The unicorn.
How do you rap? How do you write? How do you deliver? What is a great rhyme? How do you know it's done? How did you write Exhibit C? What were you going through? What were you thinking about? Where did it come together? These sort of things that, in 10, 20, 30 years, more than that, people want, who is that extraordinary person? How did they get down? Like, well, this guy Toure, I don't know who he is, but he did an interview with them too.
It becomes a library. And I think that all these podcasts out there that are quality, that have good guests, that have good content, create a library.
Look, my show, like the Combat Jack show, is meant to be an evergreen.
Sure.
I interviewed RZA maybe a year ago. You could listen to it right now. It's still super relevant.
Sure.
I interviewed Maxwell 6 months ago. Still super relevant. I just put out Jussie Smollett and Amanda Seales. In 6 months, those will still be relevant. I think about what Combat Jack did. I think about what Tim Ferriss does, and creating these shows that have a shelf life. Because we're not talking about what you did yesterday. We're talking about who you are in your journey through life. So you can listen to these shows years from now and they still have this relevance.
When you think about it, right? And you say after it's all done, and you sit back one day and you look upon everything. What's the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I want to have done right by black people through my media projects. I want to have added some complexity, some dignity, the sense of intelligence to us. I mean, a lot of my interviews I go into assuming that the person is intelligent, even when many, many other people suggested they weren't. I did an interview once when I was at Fuse with Plies. And I remember the day before the interview, I put out on Twitter, you know, if you have a question you want me to ask Plies, let me know. And like, serious questions only. I didn't want to wade through all the tweets with your fucking joke questions for Plies. I'm trying to do something here. And a bunch of people mocked me around the idea of a serious question for Plies because they see nothing in him. They think he's stupid. We had an awesome interview, and one of the great moments, and when I say the great moments, I'm not patting myself on the back. I don't have a great interview unless he is great. I'm just giving him the platform to be great. And he had gone on stage and said that he was going to point at some girl in the audience, said he was going to give her a college scholarship. And I said, did you really do that? And he said, yeah, I did. No, I really paid for her to go to college. And like, why did you do that? And he said he had been around his grandmother and sort of showing off his wealth or what have you. And she was like, that's nothing. What have you done for other people? And so out of the conversation with her, he decided to put somebody through college so that she would feel like he was using his money in a righteous way. And it was like, that was so dope.
Paying it forward, man.
Yeah, but it was like, you know, it's like it's deeper than just some flossy throw off. You know, I made it rain on this girl, gave her $80,000 so she go to FAM. You know, it's like, no, like my relationship with my grandmother. I mean, like, how many rappers are out here talking about their grandmother and their relationship with their grandmother?
It goes to show you how important those parents are.
Yeah.
How important of an impact they are.
I mean, you know, just the adding a sense of seriousness, intelligence, complexity, depth to how people see black people. You know, on my show, I'm focusing on talking to black people, and I'm going to talk to white people where they have a specific thing to say that is relevant to black culture. So Susanna Melvoin wants to come on and talk about, you know, dating Prince and almost marrying him. Okay. You know, I'm going to have Naomi Klein on to talk about what's going on in Puerto Rico and disaster capitalism. So you're talking about something that matters to us in our community. But for the most part, on this show, on MSNBC, on other things, I've tried to show myself and other black people in a more complex, intelligent light, you know, and I mean, there are times when I was like, I could make a stupid joke and I'm like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be part of that. Because I want to be seen in a way that is showing respect for myself and the culture.
Sure. Are you better on Twitter now? I know sometimes you go away for a couple months. I say, where the fuck is my friend Toure? You have a love-hate relationship with Twitter?
I think you're just following too many people so you don't see all my shit. No, I tweet a lot. It's a really important,
there has been months
valuable part of my life. I mean, here and there, but not really that much since I started on Twitter. I mean, I remember my first tweet, and it's amazing how it is part of our lives. I am a little down on it as a general community now. There used to be I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years ago, there was a much stronger, more tangible sense of community on Twitter. I felt I had Twitter friends. I felt that I enjoyed the conversations. I remember some nights coming home and I'm planning to watch a TV show and something happens on Twitter and people are responding to it, and I couldn't even get to my TV show because I remember, I think it was what Reign of April was doing the struggle chicken thing. It was so funny, it freaking blew me away, and I was just sitting there all night reading through the stream, the shit that she was saying, dissing this other girl, and people responding, and I remember I came home one night and they were talking about the NAACP awards, and I wouldn't have watched it that night, but I started watching it with the laptop on my lap, and suddenly I'm watching it with like 100 people who are making jokes and comments and whatever, and it's fun. And those sort of monocultural moments, those big moments, can happen around the Super Bowl and the NBA Finals and the Oscars, but outside of big mass events like that, it's hard for Twitter now to have that happen.
You think it's because it's saturated?
I don't know about saturated. I don't know quite what's wrong. I'm not sure what's wrong.
I love Instagram, but I love Twitter the most. I do. I love it from day one. I love, and you're right. I can understand some of what you're saying, but I met so many people. I mean, even I was talking to one of our old co-hosts, the DJ Ben Hameen, and he met a guy on Twitter years ago, and they went down, and now they write for the American Gods. He wrote he wrote one season over there. Now I think he's doing some other freelancing. But think about that shit. Like, you could sit there and be like, oh, we met on Twitter, and then we wrote for the American Gods. It's so weird how shit happens like that.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is, think about it. You went, I don't even want to get into this, we'll be here for days. But you were like the original social media back in the day for like Black Planet. Right?
I was, yes.
BlackPlanet.com was at people's houses.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Think about it, meeting up and networking. And this is the ultimate network. And I get it.
And look, Twitter's, when I first realized what it was, I'm like, this is a writing game. I'm a writer, dog. I'm going to be good at this. I was like, I can rock this. It took me a while to really get my Instagram groove and to understand how I can use pictures and text to have a dope feed. And I'm still finding my Instagram voice.
And you learn every day.
I found a Snapchat voice, and then I feel like the app left me, that it wasn't as popular. It was super popular, and then suddenly it wasn't that popular. And I'm like, why am I doing all this work in crazy fucking movies and no one's fucking watching?
Sure.
But the Twitter, I always felt like I got my Twitter voice. I know how to rock it. Now, not to say, I've made mistakes.
Sure.
A lot of us have, and I've learned from those mistakes.
You have admitted it a lot. You admitted a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've learned a lot. And, it's interesting because somebody, a writing teacher once said, don't strive to be understood. Strive to not be misunderstood, which is a higher burden of being, of creating comprehension in the other person, right? And so then you're doing, if you're trying to be understood, then I would write a sentence that I get. But when I'm trying to not be misunderstood, I have to see, how could this be misconstrued? How could somebody else who's smart, who's dumb, who doesn't know anything about my culture, who knows more about my culture than me, how might they misread this and then run with their own interpretation? And how can I write words or eliminate words that guard against that? And it's been, it's sometimes annoying on Twitter, but it has been a great writing teacher in that way to try to think about how might one word choice make a huge difference.
Man, Toure is in the build. I'll tell you one thing. I will say this. Combat is definitely looking down at us, saying, look at you fucks.
Yes.
In a room, having an intelligent conversation.
Salute to Combat.
Not arguing with each other.
Oh, man.
And you think about it. It's like, it's really just a tribute to him.
Yo, I was nervous the first time I walked
the
in
PNC one.
the first time I did Combat Jack because I was scared of Dallas.
Yeah.
I thought Dallas was going to diss me. I didn't want it with Dallas. I'm like, I'm an author. I'm pushing a book. I don't need the beef. And he was like, I'm like, Reggie. I'm going to call him Reggie. Reggie, don't have me come up there for the bullshit. Like, I can't with Dallas. Like, I read the shit he writes about me. I can't do it. Like, I don't
What's
need
that tweet that he wrote about you one time?
And he said, what was it? He said, I diss Toure like I'm brushing my teeth, or I get up in the morning and diss Toure and brush my teeth, and that's
So I keep it white?
Yeah, to keep it. I'm like, I don't even understand the diss, and it's like has like 10,000 retweets. The community's loving it. I'm like, I don't even understand the joke. Like, what the fuck is going on? Why are you dissing me? Did I diss you? Like, what? And I remember when Jack asked him, "What's your real reason for disliking Toure?" He didn't really have anything to say. And I can see that some people may not like me, but just tell me why, and we can deal with it. He didn't, but I was scared. But it was also like, there's so many people in this room. There's so many dudes in this room. There's this energy. You're like, oh my God. And it's funny because I settled in and I'm having a great conversation with Reggie, and I'm watching Dallas, and I'm like, nah, okay, I get the vibe. Dallas is going to be cool, whatever. And he was actually really kind of being funny.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm not going to hurt you. And then you came out your face and started saying crazy ass shit, and we get into a fight. So the second time I came on, I came loaded for bear.
Oh, yeah. We had. I listened to that episode the other day. Interesting, if you never heard it. I think it's maybe the Return of Toure on Combat Jack Show.
Yeah.
I think so. Check it out.
I pre-wrote like 4 or 5 disses.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to bust out these 2 or 3 at the top. So I walked in the room and like, bam, bam, bam. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I'm stunned. He's punching me in the face. And like, yeah, motherfucker, what's good? And, and I got these other 2 in reserve in case he fires some shots back. Then I'm going to come out with da-da-da. Yeah. And then he's going to be like, oh, I can't talk anymore. So I was like, I'm ready. And but you were in a much more agreeable or peaceful mode. So I came out and like, bam, bam, bam.
You came
like,
out the gate.
3 punches to the face, and you were like, okay, that's cool. Let's keep it moving. I'm like, oh, good. He doesn't want to fight. All right, let's talk.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That, to me, was, radio gold. You don't hear that many people. And one thing I always say, Combat was inspired by Star.
Yes.
Combat was inspired by Howard Stern.
Yes.
And he literally created his cast of fucking fuckies, man.
How did he get none of you guys were getting paid, right?
We did get paid later on. Everyone got different types of money, you know what I mean?
But for years, we were sitting there for nothing.
Bro, I say this, let me tell you something. We went down to A3C, this maybe been 2012. In 2 years, or maybe 2013, okay? 3 years of doing the Combat Jack Show. And I shit you not, we became like semi-famous.
Yeah.
Okay? Internets loved us. They wanted more. They never seen something like this so crazy. We were down there. We were doing an interview, and Combat and Dallas and me were on mic, and Combat was autographing a A3C pamphlet that they wanted us to autograph, pass it to Dallas, and then pass it to me. So we autographed about 200 pamphlets while we're on there. Not making $1.
But why, or better, how did Jack get you to come out and be part of his thing when you didn't talk that much most of the time and you didn't get paid?
I believed in it.
You believed in the show?
I believed in it, man. I knew it could be something special. I knew there was something special there. It felt like, to be honest with you, it felt like after school.
Right.
And I was like, fuck, I don't want to go home.
So it was fun.
It was more than fun. It was what I grew up on, too. MOP's in there, EPMD's in there. You're hearing all these stories. But keep in mind, too, the podcast game was different at that time. Now, let me give credit to Rosenberg and Cypher Sounds. They did do One Epstein, and they did do a great job. But we came very, different level. We had a lot of more personalities, a lot of more barbershop, a lot of more, I feel, radio gold. No disrespect. But the point I'm making is we still were trying to figure it out while we're on the move. But you got to keep in mind, when we call up a Chuck D or an LL Cool J and you say, like, yo, we want you to come on a podcast, they don't even know what the fuck a podcast is.
Right.
Now you call LL, he's like, yeah, like 79 people already asked me.
Right.
So it was like they were interested and they come there, and it's like you sit on this couch or you sit down and you get so comfortable and you get these fucking stories that you never heard before.
Right.
And back to your question, I was mesmerized. I was like, yo, this is... And Combat slowly but surely gave me a chance. I eventually became, when everybody left, it was just me and him for years.
Right.
And, he gave me... Like, that's the thing, too. He gave me as much time as I wanted. But he was so good at it, I wasn't trying to let people know I was just there. I always wanted to be the betterment of the show. I
Sure.
always, and
No, I mean, I can tell that some episodes you lay back, and then some episodes it's clear you have a certain affinity for the group. It's not like you're asking a forced question, but you're like, so on your second album, the third cut in the 4th minute of the song, I'm like, so he really loves this group. So he's digging in with the question that really matters to him, and somebody who really understands, Ice-T or whoever, like Tribe Called Quest, whoever it may be. Well, you guys didn't have a Tribe. Did you have a Tribe Called Quest?
we had Cons, we had Busta. No, we didn't have them all together. We never got Q-Tip. Q-Tip spoke to Combat so many times. They were 99% ready to do a show about 10 times. And Q-Tip, I guess he just didn't want to. From what I heard, he was, Q-Tip doesn't hold back. And he felt that on a professional level that it probably wasn't the best thing to do that. Because he felt if he went there, he would have probably, laid, some groundwork that would have probably came back to him.
You're talking about like the documentary type stuff.
Zulu Nation type shit, all that, whatever questions people may have, but an episode together, that never happened. And the only person who ever stood us up was Grand Puba.
Really?
And the crazy thing is, there's this dude named Carlos from Classic Material, and that's one thing I loved about the Combat Jack show. Not only did I believe in it with all my heart, so many fucking people believed in that shit.
Yeah.
So this guy Carlos, he was cool with Grand Puba, made the connection. We came to the studio, we were waiting. This dude was outside waiting for him, like outside the fucking building. And he waited, we were there like an hour and a half, and me and Combat looked at each other like, yo, this guy's not coming.
What's the best episode of all time?
I can't say one. I will say the D-Nice episode.
D-Nice is first at your mouth. Wow. It's a great episode.
The reason why I say that for is so honest. Dude was crying. I feel like it was therapeutic for him without him even knowing.
Yeah.
You can understand, these people didn't come and expect to feel that way.
No.
Expect for a guy, premium, hand him a fucking tissue.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up and I mean, Ice-T was amazing,
Yes.
Getting Chuck D for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it took us forever to get Chuck D, and then we couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
He was like 3 hours and 57 minutes, and we were
Yeah.
like, fuck. Like, his man was sleeping on the fucking floor. Keith Shockley was fucking twiddling his thumbs. But it was beautiful. There's so many. I think the biggest one fans like is the Dame Dash, the first one with him versus Just Blaze.
I prefer the second one.
The second one was powerful.
The first one's powerful, but the second one, he's telling us, how to do our business. I prefer that one.
I mean, I think there's and then there's one that really sticks to my heart. It's actually, I think it's on YouTube if you want to see video. It's a therapy episode. Me and Combat and Dallas were going through some things, meaning like, I think I was mad over money, which happens. Dallas was mad over, I don't know, he just stopped showing up sometimes. We were all in the room and we brought in a psychiatrist. And she sat down there and literally, gave no fucks about, our feelings in the sense of, yo, what's your problem with him? And why don't you tell him how you feel? And, I was like, yo, Combat, I look at you as, a big brother, and, sometimes I'll give you advice or I'll give you an idea and you don't even get back to me. And she's like, why don't you get back to him? Does his opinion not matter? And Just Blaze was there, too, because he was a co-host for, 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I kind of get that. So just to have, look, no matter what color I am, I never really went to therapy that much. One time my parents put me in there and I feel like I wasted their copay because I didn't talk.
Right.
So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I was like, we were both really honest about the issues we have, Combat growing up, not knowing his dad, Dallas having a fear of people leaving him, me speaking about, messing up and upsetting my parents and not really taking shortcuts that, it just was, it was stuff that was so powerful. And that show forever remains something that I think, brought people together. I feel like, I don't want to sound like old shit, but it's kind of like where it's like you meet up and you go play ball once a week. Mm-hmm. Shoot around. Some people still got a nice jumper. Some people got a layup. And some people just are good at ordering food when you go afterwards to eat.
I mean, Scarface is incredible. David Banner was
incredible.
Corey Pegas.
Oh yeah. That actually episode went viral. The first one. God. It was Don Lemon was talking about it on the news.
The Michael Wood
on the
episode.
Yes.
God, what else? The Ice-T.
Ice-T was incredible.
What What else?
I mean, there's so many, man. I mean, just so many, man. And you know what? Like I said, I'm really proud. Anybody like who's listened to this episode and clicked on from the beginning and maybe thought that me and Toure were going to argue, man, that's in the fucking...
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Listen, okay? Do not call Toure White Toure anymore. Call him fucking Toure. Okay? Call him Toure. You don't got no fucking pocket square.
Wait, did anybody actually do that?
Oh, come on. You remember that, no?
No, I remember you saying it, but I don't remember it actually going anywhere.
Well, they were, and then you met Toure, the rapper, and
once.
Okay. He's a cool kid. He's a cool kid.
No, he's a nice guy. Just I continue to stand on the point that there's no need for an adjective to define me from him.
Of course.
Nobody is going, which Toure are you talking about? Which actually is funny because I got at David Williams, the poker. He's the number 2 black poker player of all time.
Yes, I heard of him. Got
at him on Twitter and was like, yo, I dig your style. I'm doing a podcast. Please come do it. And he's like, and he said, the tour guide. Absolutely would love to hang with you.
Oh, that's the other Toure.
Yeah, yes, but I didn't know that was his nickname. So he's thinking
that's
it's
his show.
him.
I'm serious,
right? So David Williams is thinking it's him, and he's like looking at my resume. He's like, "Wow, this guy is a great writer and a rapper. But how come his rap stuff's not on his wiki page? Like this is weird, but okay." And
did he ever come?
Of course, yeah. We did an epic episode, but when he got there, he's like, "Oh, you're not the same guy. I thought I was talking to that guy, and I'm talking to you.
Classic.
Great, no problem." But I mean, the exception that proves the rule. No shots to young Toure, but who's out there going, which Toure are you referring to? So there's no need for an adjective.
I know. The internet's ran with their own story. But like I said, I know Combat is looking down on us tonight. We send our prayers up to him.
Indeed.
He rests in paradise.
Jamila Lemieux.
Yeah, what's up with Jamila? That was a great episode.
She
loved Combat.
The Charlemagne the God episode.
Charlemagne was incredible.
Jordan Peele.
What about DJ Envy talking about cheating on his wife? How honest
I haven't listened to DJ Envy yet.
It was very powerful.
I will listen to that. I haven't listened to all of them, but I think I'm at like 90%. Listen to Joe Budden. God, I got to get on with Envy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a couple of years back. Even the Raekwon one. And
Cardi. You guys did a good one with Cardi.
Yeah.
Angie Marr was good.
Yep.
Combat
Man will always be forever etched in the podcast realm.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And listen, internets, I want you to check out Toure's show.
Thank you.
On iTunes, SoundCloud, all over podcast platforms.
Keith Murray was good.
Oh, yeah. The most beautiful thing in the world. Let me ask you something. Toure, it's at Toure on Instagram and Twitter?
Yeah. At Toure, Toure on Twitter. On Instagram, it's Toure Show.
Okay, Toure Show. Internets, make sure you connect with Toure. What's next for you, bro?
I'm working on a book with Rakim.
Nice.
It's his creative memoir, so he's talking about his creativity, how he wrote rhymes, how he developed as a rhyme writer, these sort of questions. Excuse me.
Uh-oh, Combat Jack Show.
Accidentally pressed the play on a new Combat Jack Show.
Can't start with how he wrote rhymes.
Ninth Wonder.
Just say how he wrote rhymes.
How he wrote rhymes, how he works on his music, the relationship with John Coltrane. So you get how he grew up, some of the street stuff, some of how he met his wife, but then also how he wrote, how he sees rhyme writing. This is probably the most in-depth discussion of how a great rhyme writer actually does it. I mean, like you get inside the beautiful mind and how he sees the world and how he does his thing. I'm working on that, and I'm working on a book about infidelity. Why married men cheat on their wives. I interviewed 70 guys and a few women.
Hey, I may want to get in that book. I was married once.
Research is closed. I love you, but
okay.
I interviewed a ton of people. I'm not interviewing anybody else.
We'll get into the next one. Internets, listen, Toure, first of all, like I said, I definitely want to send prayers to your father.
Thank you.
I know how much that, so fresh. So, and just keep on making him proud. I'm proud that we have overcome so many different things to be here sitting down, chopping it up. TV soon? More TV soon?
I would like to. There's, I have an idea for television that will allow me to be more in control of the situation rather than doing what somebody else is telling me to do. So I'm working on creating that.
Okay. Internets, listen. The one and only Toure. Okay? Writer. TV personality. Almost entrepreneur. Podcaster.
Author.
A friend of mine. Do not call him White Toure.
Father.
Do not call him White Toure.
Son.
Toure.
Husband.
Just Toure. And my friend.
Yes.
See you next episode.
Indeed.
Cheer. Internets, if you enjoyed that episode, I want you to email me at thepremiumpeteshow@gmail.com. Again, that's email is thepremiumpeteshow@gmail.com. Let me know what you thought. And listen, all my advertisers out there, all my big businesses, my small businesses, whoever, a friend, a store, you want to advertise on The Premium Pete Show? Email me at thepremiumpeteshow@gmail.com and let's get working. Okay? Make sure you subscribe, rate, leave a comment on all streaming platforms of the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we'll see you next episode. Cheer.